Upstairs at Froelich, show 318, reel 1.
What we're talking about, it's a Hudsucker in a three-piece.
Hudsucker in a three-piece. Hey,
it's a Hudsucker.
All right, how is that for a segue? John Froelich, king of the segues over here. The heart of the Ghostbusters. Ray Stantz.
I am here all week.
They love you. They love you here. I like that shirt dress. All right. We're not talking about Ghostbusters.
I'm either Egon or Ray. I don't know which.
I think you're Ray. You're the heart of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I think I'm Bill Murray. I'm more of a wise ass. Egon, you're mucus. What are we talking about? We are talking about Crimewave. We're talking about the Hudsucker duology, which starts with Crimewave and the Hudsucker Proxy, baby. And suddenly I'm Frank Sinatra over here.
No, you're trying to emulate Bruce Campbell.
Ronaldo the heel there.
Ronaldo the heel. Let's see. You kind of got that little.
Or Smitty. Smitty was also a heel too.
Yeah,
wasn't
you got that Smitty fucking vibe going about.
What's going on over there, Sweet Kicks? What are you doing?
And we should also note that this is also the only time that these three people have shared screen credit together, I believe. Sam Raimi and the Coens.
Oh, well, 4 if you count Bruce.
4 if you count Bruce. But this is these are what you call the two odd man out movies of
of both careers.
Each of their respect, yeah. It's like these are the both odd man outs.
Although, to be fair, Hudsucker is looked upon much more favorably than Crimewave.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, when it came out, it was a very mixed bag movie. That if you were a Coen fan, this is what's funny. You're going to say this about Crimewave. If you're a diehard Sam Raimi fan, you're going to love Crimewave.
Maybe.
Okay? Or you're gonna,
I love Sam Raimi. I have
a
real hard time with it though,
and we'll get into that in a second. Yeah. But the thing goes with the Coens. If you really like the Coens and you get that type of humor, then you're going to enjoy Hudsucker. It's kind of like how people watched The Big Lebowski the first time and they were like they didn't know what to do. But then it eventually became bigger than itself.
It grew on them, but Hudsucker I enjoyed right away. I love that movie. I love the way it was
now you see, this is where you call me the young guy, okay? This is where the young guy comes into play. When I first saw it, yeah, I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
But then I was a snot-nosed 13-year-old. What the fuck did I know, right?
Was it I don't know. So it must have been because you're trying to, if you're watching this and you're 13 years old, you're thinking about Hudsucker Proxy. You're thinking that they're obviously very serious about whatever they're trying to do, and they're trying to do something that has this visual sensibility and then the acting style and Jennifer Jason Leigh and all that, and you're not exactly sure of what they're paying homage to, but they are paying homage to something.
They are, and at the end of the day, it's satire. It's a straight satire piece.
And it is a very goofy movie too, but it has a great cast.
Neither one of these movies are fucking grounded in reality.
No. And they're the same aesthetic, too. I hate to use the word aesthetic. My daughter uses that word all the time. But they're the same aesthetic, which is this kind of
disjointed
Crimewave
comedy.
is kind of like if the Three Stooges did Blood Simple. That's what Crimewave is. It's basically Blood Simple as envisioned by the Three Stooges. And it has the same vibe as Hudsucker, which is it's got this air of the 1940s and 50s based on the costumes and the behaviors and the acting style of everybody, right? But it's obviously a contemporary movie because they're all 80s vehicles, and the classic is in there too.
Right. But you see certain movies that works in its favor. Okay, big one, Streets of Fire.
Right.
That works in its favor because they put the tagline, another time, another place.
Yes.
So it's in a different reality. Crimewave would have worked a little bit better if you did the same thing, or pick a fucking decade.
I think one of the biggest mistakes of Crimewave is that they shot it in Detroit, because that production was...
And then there's a shot in the movie that makes no sense. There's a fucking shot of the Chicago skyline.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The movie takes place in Detroit. Why is there a fucking shot of the Chicago skyline?
I don't understand why it was shot in Detroit, because they ripped off the production. It cost way more money than it should have. And it looked like everything was made of cardboard.
I read up on this. It was budgeted $2.5 million. Then what did it end up costing? $6 million at the end of the day.
I don't know if you can blame Raimi for that.
Only a couple of thousand.
Actually, from what I understand, I think Tappert and Bruce Campbell under budgeted it because they didn't take into account the union, and the union in Detroit is very, they're very vicious. They're like baseball bats.
I believe. I mean,
so they were dealing with a big union production.
When I think of Detroit, I think of the Teamsters, even though that's like a New York thing.
Yeah.
But that's what I think of is when I think of the unions, especially this is the mid '80s.
Well, yeah, that's where Jimmy Hoffa was and all that.
Yeah, it's like I could only imagine what they were going through with the unions. I could only imagine. And Raimi, what is it? This is his first time even working with the fucking union.
Yeah, they were
all of them.
They were writing. They were working on the script
for Hudsucker while they were doing Crimewave.
While they were doing Crimewave, but they also worked together on Crimewave while they were editing Evil Dead. So they worked on the script for Crimewave while they were editing Evil Dead. It was basically the same premise, sort of, except Blood Simple is a much better idea because you're doing something that's film noir, but you're telling a story about people who aren't very bright, right? And there's a certain natural feeling to it. It has a very organic feel to it, whereas Crimewave is completely contrived, just like Hudsucker Proxy. It's not handled well because of the editing.
That's one of the reasons. I have another.
He had his own editor on it. He had Kay Davis working on it, who had worked on Evil Dead. But then she was fired by the producers again, by the studio people. I think the Embassy people, right?
Embassy.
They brought in a bunch of other editors, and they kept working on different cuts of the movie. They didn't let him use Bruce. They wanted him to use Bruce, and that was also a mistake because Reed Birney, he's a fine actor, and he eventually became an acting teacher and a very respected one, but he's incapable of playing this part. He's just and everybody is so fucking stupid in this movie.
I know.
It's ridiculous. Just... And then he also apparently had a problem with Louise Lasser, if I remember reading from If Chins Could Kill.
She was coked out.
I don't know. It's like she didn't know she had agreed to make this movie and had no idea what was going on throughout.
Well, the story I read is that she fired her makeup artist and she wanted to do her makeup herself, and she was just like coked
she was
up
really
on
bad
set.
at it. Yeah. Oh, and Reed Birney, this is like the weirdest thing in the world because we've been watching the 4th season of The Handmaid's Tale. I brought this up with you a while ago. It's so bizarre because I'm watching Crimewave, and then I turn on the next episode of Handmaid's Tale, and who is in it but lo and behold, Reed Birney. And he's very old now, but he's still his weird, creepy, chipper self that he is. But he's like this horrible inquisitor who tortures and executes handmaids, and he's got this smile on his face the whole time, and I'm like, why is this guy familiar to me? And I'm looking at the credits. I'm like, holy shit, that's fucking Reed Birney. And then you have Sheree J. Wilson, who was in that movie Fraternity Vacation. I remember reviewing for We Are Second Union last summer. I did a whole
she ends up
movie.
with fucking Neville at the end of the movie.
Yes,
I believe.
Yes. And but I told you before, this is Brion James' finest moment as an actor. He really does a fine job.
Oh my God, yes.
But they give him this voice, and he talks like this throughout the whole movie, and it's so annoying.
But that's the gag, though, because he's a good mimicker. Like, he can mimic other people's voices. It's a good gag.
His best moment is when he's holding
Dude,
Sheree
he's
Wilson
fucking
hostage.
curly. That's the whole point. He's fucking curly.
I guess, but was that make Paul L. Smith the Mo? Mo is their leader. He was Bluto in the Popeye movie.
Yeah, and you know what? That's one thing I wanted to talk about. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, while I do respect that man as an actor, okay, so I first saw Crimewave like 20 fucking years ago, okay, and I whatever. This was a guy that I was used to seeing as fucking Bluto, and this was a guy I was used to seeing as the Sadistic Guard in Midnight Express.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I had no idea who he was when I first saw Crimewave. I'm like, okay, and I watched it last night. I looked, I'm like, holy shit, that's fucking Bluto.
Yeah. And he even has kind of like a voice. It kind of sounds like this when he talks.
But no, it was overdubbed.
I know. It seemed like a lot of it was overdubbed.
But then as soon as I saw it was Bluto, I couldn't even take him seriously. And then that his voice was overdubbed.
What is with all the sound effects too? I mean, there were just so many sound effects, and they were
so many
irritating.
bad. Oh, that was, you know what? That was all Raimi because like.
But they were like they all felt out of place and way too loud, you know?
They did. And you could blame Ted and Ivan Raimi for that because Ted Raimi shows up in the restaurant scene. He plays a waiter who snickers. Like, he's there in the background, though. Mm-hmm. Very young looking. So this is what brings into one of my problems that I had why Hudsucker is so good, but where Crimewave falters. This is sacrilege. I'm going to hate to fucking say this. This is also because Sam Raimi directed it. Okay? The Coens should have directed this movie.
It probably would have had.
It would have been a little more grounded. Even though it's insane, it would have been more grounded. We wouldn't have had the Three Stooges type humor, but then you needed Sam Raimi to inject that level of humor.
There is
So-
a little bit of Three Stooges humor though in Hudsucker though when you're watching it.
There is, but it's dialed back.
I guess it is. It's sort of, I don't know. Maybe Crimewave was trying too hard to be funny, and I don't think that I don't think Raimi
there
is an
are some
expert
good
so
scenes,
much
though.
in comedy as he is in slapstick. You know, there are some wonderful. Oh my God, the parade of protection scene with Louise Lasser running from Paul L. Smith through the doors. That was absolutely amazing to watch.
There was another the scene with the rug where Bluto's freaking pulling the rug like with Louise Lasser. That's a great scene.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful scene.
there are great
And-
visual moments in there, and also you got
And that's the problem with this movie. This movie is nothing but moments.
Also, I really did like that kind of retro 40s feel to it in the lighting and everything. You know, in the big cocktail party scenes, in the way Sheree J. Wilson looked, her look about her. The cameos were really nice too. You had the Coen brothers were in there. Rob Tapper was in there.
They were the two reporters. Yeah, they were the reporters
and you have
in
Frances
the jail.
McDormand as a nun wearing glasses.
Yep.
In the car, which I thought was
Barely
fantastic.
noticeable. Blink and you'll fucking miss her.
Yeah. It was a mistake, completely all the way around. And then they sort of gave a big middle finger to the movie in a release because they didn't give it any kind of a release. They didn't give it any publicity. It's like they didn't.
Yeah. Well,
and for
but
some
you know
reason
why?
they hired.
But you know why, right? The studio buried it because they even said in the thing they only played it in those little amount of theaters just so they could get it on TV. Like it was a whole contract. You
I
had
feel
to do
like
with TV back
so
then.
it was a scam. The movie was a scam. It was basically you spend this much money, you put out the
you
product.
get something that you don't know, that you can't even market it to anybody. The problem was the movie was not marketable to anybody. It was a horror movie. It was a dark comedy. It was fucking film noir. It was satire. You could not market this movie in 1985 and 1986.
Actually, though, they really did a really good job restoring it, and that Blu-ray that I gotta get.
It looks now. You know what? It looks okay. The elements are in okay shape. They need to be cleaned up a lot better.
There was grain, but they had 3 different versions of it with 3 different titles. They had the XYZ Murders, they had Broken Hearts and Noses, and they had Crimewave. And then they had an additional Crimewave. That was the only one that we ever watched, was the 82-minute version, the one I have on video right now that I managed to grab. I could never find this movie. This movie was completely unavailable. It was almost like it was deliberately pulled in the 90s. It was unavailable to find. I managed to find it at Kim's Video, and I dubbed it, and I have my own personal copy of it.
Well,
It's a really bad copy, though. But
I was actually able to get an original VHS of it back in 2000, 2001.
is that the same one from the same company?
Charter Entertainment.
Yeah, I think it was Charter, but the one I
It
had
was a Charter Entertainment VHS.
was from 1987 on video, and it looked really terrible.
Oh yeah, because it was Charter / Embassy. Their transfers weren't all that great. Anyway.
It was a really, really bad transfer.
And then this was what's sad. It didn't even get a Laserdisc release over
Is
here.
that the
It got
one
it
that
in
has Paul L. Smith and Brion James on the cover?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I had, definitely. Really
Yeah,
bad.
I paid like $3 for it.
I just
because
rented it. It was the only copy they had, and they would not sell it to me, so they rented it to me instead. I had to see it. This is like the Holy Grail. This is like one of those things. Back then, when a movie was on moratorium, it was unavailable completely. You couldn't find it.
Yeah, and it was a holy grail for a lot of people. I remember MGM got the rights to it because they got the whole rights to the Embassy catalog. And what they ended up doing was, I believe it got a manufactured on-demand release through Amazon or whatever company they used. But then Shout Factory picked it up and put it out. But in typical Shout Factory fashion, they did no cleanup whatsoever.
It's kind of you when you watch it, you kind of know why Sam Raimi didn't want anybody to see it. So you're watching it. I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see this. I can't wait. I got my soda pop. I got everything. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. This is something that could just completely disappear. It could completely disappear, fall between the cracks, and pretend it didn't exist, and just move from Evil Dead to Evil Dead 2. And he learns polish. He learns how to polish his stuff. Finally, when he does, I guess Darkman. I want to say
Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2.
Darkman. He finally got to play with a good studio.
Yeah,
Thank
and then
goodness. But even though he wanted Bruce, and they still said no.
Yeah, at least he got him in the end, though. But there's still some of it is still a little messy. He doesn't really get that polish until Quick and the Dead, I think.
But then one could also argue he gets the main polish when he did A Simple Plan.
Well, that was respectability. For some reason, he suddenly became prestigious with A Simple Plan. Oh, speaking of
But
which,
then again, he made For Love of the Game. So
I have to mention this. This is very important. I wanted to bring this up. We talked about Bill Paxton at the beginning of the season, and the fact that he died. And we did a little tribute. We did a couple of movies of his. We did, what was it? We did that one where he's with Bill Pullman, right?
Yeah.
But was that
Brain Dead.
Brain Dead, and then we did
then Frailty.
Frailty, right? So I finished watching Stargate SG-1 on Netflix. So I picked a new show, and this is what I do. I just go through these shows. So I'm watching them. I'm binge watching, or watching as much as I can. And I picked Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Bill Paxton shows up, and it's like the weirdest thing, because he died a couple of years ago. He died several years ago. When you haven't seen him in something at that time, because I never watched the show before, and then you see him again, it's almost like he came back from the dead, and and he's there, and he's on this TV show, and I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think it's fantastic, and he plays a great bad guy on the show.
Is this going into your Brion James segue?
No, not technically.
I was thinking you were gonna talk about Brion James about the same way about how he was one of them standout actors, and you kind of forget he was in this movie.
Well,
and
I didn't even.
On top of that, he was a big standout.
Brion James is very iconic as a bad guy in a lot of classic movies we love, undiscovered movies that become suddenly big and famous, and he's very definable by that. But no, this was mainly just about how Bill Paxton, he was there, and this was before he died, but I had never seen him before in this show because I never watched the show before. It became available on Netflix, and I was like, okay, I saw the Marvel movies. I really like Agent Coulson a lot, so I'll watch this show. There's a bunch of great actors on the show, and it's just, I love the show. I love watching it, but I got to see Bill Paxton again, and it was like he came back to life in a way. And this is the immortality of movies. Movies will always be around long after we're dust. We're still in the movies, and we're still alive. And it's like we'll never die. It's like, I don't know what the Kinks said, Ray Davies said about celluloid heroes. They never feel pain. Celluloid heroes never die.
Well,
anyway, that's my little
as long as they keep
thing.
the elements preserved.
Yeah, but, nowadays everything is HD, so, they'll be able to convert lots of things. Anyway, if you haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., go ahead and check it out. It's a really fun show, and Bill Paxton's on it. Ignore the young kids. Ignore the kids.
What would you say about Crimewave, though? What would you say about Crimewave to people?
Oh, about Crimewave? Bear in mind, it was his second movie. Please be kind. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not The Room, and it's not Room, and it's not Captain Marvel, and it's not it's not fucking Tenet. I watched Tenet finally for the first time. I want to strangle Christopher Nolan. I want to hang him up by his nutsack and feed him his intestines for that fucking movie. I hate Chris Nolan now. I hate him. I'm hitting myself. I hate him so much.
This is why I haven't watched Tenet yet, because that reaction you just gave, that is why I have not seen that movie.
My God. Oh my God, that makes me so...
There were people who got it, and there were people like you who just fucking rage quit.
I got it. It just went on forever. And also, visual effects doesn't mean rewinding the film. Rewinding the film is not a visual effect. I can rewind the film right now. I'll rewind it. Ooh, where's my Oscar? John David Washington is awesome. I love him. I think he's a great actor. Okay, but that movie was fucking shit. God.
Okie dokie.
Damn. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, kids. I really am sorry. But
tell us how you really feel. No, I'm joking. No, please don't. Oh God.
His wife produces his movie. She should knee him in the nuts for that movie.
I guess the best way we're going to sum up Crimewave is this. If you are curious about where Sam Raimi cut his teeth in between Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, especially with the Coens too, give it a chance. The elements of greatness to come lies in this movie. It just happens in very small doses.
I think it was a good learning lesson. It was a good learning lesson for him.
It was, and it was a lesson for the Coens. You know what their lesson was? We're going to direct our own fucking movies from here on.
We'll direct our own movie, and we won't deal with certain people who don't understand us.
I think one of the few times that any of the Coens, it was Ethan Coen. You ever hear that movie Goodbye Lover? It's a not so well known movie. Okay, it's a Patricia Arquette. It's this low rent film noir movie that was a total fucking flop. Okay,
Goodbye,
Ethan
lover.
Coen's name is on the movie, but they didn't have. From what I understand, they didn't have anything to do with it. It's kind of like how we did our John Carpenter episodes about how John Carpenter's name is on Black Moon Rising.
Oh, Joel Coen. Joel Coen's on it.
Yeah, Joel Coen. Thank you.
It was yeah. Okay, I remember the poster because it was always in the video stores I worked in because it's Patricia Arquette there. But yeah, it was directed by Roland Joffe, and Joel Coen has a co-writing screenplay credit.
But I guarantee you it was like that. Either that it was like a story treatment him and Ethan did, and I don't even know how much of the screenplay they even fucking used that belonged to him. Because, you know, you always got to remember what a screenplay. Just because the name of the guy who wrote it's up there doesn't mean he fucking wrote it.
Well, they probably like arbitrated with the Writers Guild or something like that. That's where credit usually comes from.
But yeah, that's what I was getting to. Is that's like the only Coen movie I've ever seen that's like where Ethan or Joel never directed it. You know, where other than Crimewave. Well, no,
they co-wrote Bad Santa, didn't they?
I don't know about that.
Let me check.
There could have been a producing thing on that.
Let me check Bad Santa because it's Billy Bob and they like Billy Bob.
But then at the same time, dude, they're friends with Terry Schweigoff, so that would make sense.
That's right. No, that's weird. I don't see their name here. I could have sworn they were involved in this in some way. Oh, no. It says no. They're credited as executive producers.
There you go. See, that's what I said. They produced it because
they probably just put the package together.
Yeah.
Because they did work with Billy Bob. And also, there's a bunch of other people on it, like John Ritter, people he worked with before.
But just remember their boys and girls. Just because you wise up and start directing your own shit doesn't mean that everything you make is gold. Okay?
Yeah.
I can think of a couple of bad Coen Brothers movies, specifically The Lady Killers and Intolerable Cruelty. Okay.
I'm sorry, I got to disagree with you on Lady Killers. I love Lady Killers. Intolerable Cruelty, yes, not as good. Hail Caesar, not as good. I don't like that one.
Hail Caesar, I liked.
I didn't like Hail Caesar.
You know what? I'll take that first one off. Burn After Reading. God, did I fucking hate that one.
I tried to watch Burn After Reading, and I really couldn't get into it.
Burn After Reading was not. A Serious Man was really good. That was a good fucking movie.
Let's take a quick look at their filmography before we plunge into Hudsucker. All right, Blood Simple, brilliant, loved it. Put my daughter to sleep, though, unfortunately. Raising Arizona, I really love. It's one of the few Nicolas Cage movies I love. Miller's Crossing was great. Need to watch that again. Barton Fink was okay. Hudsucker, I love Hudsucker Proxy.
I love Hudsucker.
Fargo, of course. We watched that a couple of weeks back, and both my wife and Regan love it. Big Lebowski. Big Lebowski was a movie I initially did not like, and then it grew on me. And now it's an incredible classic.
Else.
Or Brother Royata was another movie that I didn't like initially, but then grew on me because of all the. This is that substance that we're talking about. They take you, and they throw you into this time period where they may not be factually accurate, but they have created this aesthetic about it that makes it feel real. There's so much attention to detail in a lot of these movies, like, say, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Or Hudsucker Proxy, or Barton Fink, or Miller's Crossing, these period movies, that it feels real, but it isn't. It's absolute fiction, but it's so good. It's so well made.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention, Intolerable Cruelty I didn't much care for. Lady Killers I loved. I don't know why, but I found it fucking hysterical. I just loved it because it was a black comedy and it was a farce. No Country for Old Men I thought was brilliant up until the last 10 minutes. I didn't like that we didn't get to see a final confrontation between Josh Brolin and
that was as much as I loved that movie, that was a cop-out. We should have at least seen
Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem. We should have seen Anton Chigurh and fucking
I
Josh
wanted to
Brolin
see that.
Fucking duke it out.
Like I said, A Burn After Reading, I tried to watch, I couldn't get through. A Serious Man I never saw. True Grit was wonderful. I loved it.
Yes.
Jeff Bridges is awesome. That young lady who played the young lady in the movie, awesome. But I love the original, the John Wayne movie I really loved too. So I really like that whole story.
I only had one argument with True Grit, and it was one scene that had no business being there that took everybody out of the movie, that made it look like a Coen movie, and that's when they fucking encounter the fur trapper.
Oh, right. Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
And
I agree, scene, but that's not enough for me to comment on.
That scene has no rhyme, nor reason, nor purpose to be in this movie. It purely exists to remind the audience, just remember, guys, you're watching a Coen Brothers movie.
See how quirky it is? See how quirky we are? We're the Coens over here. Oh, yeah, don't you know we're the Coens.
But other than that, don't you know, other than that little thing, that Minnesota nice, other than
Minnesota
that,
nice.
Yeah.
But we
I got
knew
a buddy
about
of
it.
mine
The
who
thing
actually-
is, if you were a fan of Mystery Science Theater, you knew that accent because they would make fun of it because they shot the show in Minnesota, so they would always use those accents. So when you saw Marge and you saw all those people going, "Oh yeah, don't you know?" You knew what they were taught. You knew they were doing Minnesota.
I got relatives from Upper Minnesota, and one of my buddy.
They all like that. They all talk like that. So what you doing down there over there?
He's got the Minnesota nice too. He's got the hard Minnesota nice accent on him. I always give him shit about it, but I always say, "Hey there,
Well, Hudsucker comes. It's the third period movie in a row for the Coen brothers. Starts off with Miller's Crossing, which takes place I think in the 40s or Prohibition era, 38, 39. Then you have Barton Fink, which takes place in the 40s and 50s, and then you've got this, which takes place in the 50s.
1958, right before Christmas,
right before the 60s. Right before the 60s was about to happen. But this was a time period where women dress like women, men dress like men. And it's really great fertile ground for the creation of Tim Robbins' hula hoop, for kids, for kids. And
for kids.
It's so conscious. It's a movie that's so conscious because it's completely selling you a joke, and they are very serious about this movie. They're very serious about the story they're trying to tell, but they're trying to tell a goofy story on top of that. And it's like a screwball comedy. It's very similar to the movies.
It's a reverse airplane.
Yeah. It's Preston Sturges, basically, where you have a young, naive idiot who gets a job and winds up becoming part of this scam, and he's unaware, Paul Newman, because Charles Durning kills himself. They need a new vice president, so they make him a vice president, and he's just naive. And Jennifer Jason Leigh,
they make him the CEO
because Paul Newman is the vice president, right?
Right, and they did it so they could, cause a stock fall.
They want it to plummet so that they
can
can snatch up Hudsucker stock themselves and be rich as Nazis or whatever. I don't know. And he comes up with an invention, and it's the hula hoop. And initially, it's a big flop, and then some kid picks it up and starts playing with it, and everybody goes nuts, and they all buy hula hoops, and he winds up becoming a big thing. And Anna Nicole Smith is in the movie in a cameo, and I a little tear rolled down my cheek watching because that was Anna Nicole.
I'm not going to say that, but I forgot she was in it. I will say that much.
That's like the only, she wasn't really in it. She was in a Naked Gun movie.
Naked Gun.
And then she did these two big tit action movies for PM. Big tit action movies, sorry. It's, but it does make me sad because that was a time when I was, I was a young man back in those days.
And we like big-titted women, and she was one of the best ones you could get because she had full pouting lips.
Dude, we still love big-titted women. I have to say that.
Nah, I've reversed. I like women with big asses.
Big asses! Look at that big ass over there. Come over here and plant one on Daddy. How do you like my voices? I'm doing the voices today.
Not bad, not bad.
Plant one on Daddy.
What'd you do, a line before we started tonight?
No. Hey, that's weird because I was talking about cocaine with my wife earlier. I was saying if you really want to clean the house, just snort a little cocaine and you'll be climbing the walls cleaning the house.
Dude, I said that last week when I came back from Ohio, dude. Like, I fucking went to the service, drove 7 hours in a car, and then went to fucking work. By the time I got to work, I was ready to fall over and die.
See, that's where cocaine comes in handy.
I literally said, "Is anyone here do drugs? I need a bump." Fucking seriously.
I don't even need a bump. Just one line will do me.
I just need a bump to get my head together.
Actually, I'm just joking.
But instead of doing that kind of coke, I just snatched a coke out the cooler.
I only did cocaine back in the 90s. I only did it in the 90s because I had a girlfriend whose roommate had some, and we were like, fuck it. Let's listen to the Cranberries and do some coke and see what happens.
Nah, I never touched the stuff, man. Worst I ever did was shrooms. But anyway.
No, I never tried shrooms. I was offered, but I said no. I can't hallucinate.
I tried it once. I'll never do that
If
again.
I hallucinate, people are going to die. Okay?
But speaking of trips, man, this movie is one hell of a fucking trip, though. Like,
yeah, my daughter really didn't get it. She was like
such a
staring at
good
all
way,
this,
though.
and she was like, "Why are they behaving like this?" I mean, she didn't seem to understand that there were affectations, like with Jennifer Jason Leigh and with Paul Newman and with Charles Durning and the elevator operator.
Now Buzz. Now that was my argument. Now, as much as I love this movie,
Buzz.
Buzz and Jennifer Jason Leigh. I'm sorry.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph, is that a blue letter?
Yeah, their performances are semi cringeworthy.
I like Jennifer Jason Leigh in the movie.
I like them at the end of the day. They are just so they're just so cringy sometimes.
But you know that they were like, you know that the Coen brothers were very serious about this, right? You know that they wanted to make sure that everybody looked and sounded like something. Like if you didn't watch a movie from 1958, this is how you assume a movie from 1958 would play, and it has a very charming innocence about it. And I think that's your Raimi connection, because there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of DNA of Crimewave that goes into this movie, but it's not done quite as goofily as the first movie.
Well, the big thing that we got to get out of the way here is Hudsucker itself, because the name of the jail that he was in at the beginning of Crimewave was
Hudsucker State Penitentiary.
There you go.
And it's like, Hudsucker State? What does that mean? You know, and then there's a Hudsucker corporation in New York City led by Waring Hudsucker, you know. And it is this bizarre, there is a bizarre kind of screwball Three Stooges thing going on with the movie, in interactions and stuff. And it was really nice to see Bruce Campbell there. I really, he always adds something good to any movie that he's in, just his presence being there. The 5 seconds, the only reason to watch Congo is the first 5 seconds with Bruce Campbell. And then you get a nice Evil Dead cam too, because he dies and he screams as he's looking at the camera, and it's an Evil Dead reference, obviously.
Yep. The only reason to watch fucking Spider-Man 3 is for fucking Bruce Campbell, because he has a funny ass role in there.
Doesn't he have a role in all three of Raimi's?
He does, but yeah. Like Spider-Man 3, I think was like worst movie, but best gag role.
Yeah, I'd say probably. Let me see. What's the best one? I really liked. Okay, well, I love the first Spider-Man, the first Raimi Spider-Man. There were parts of the second Spider-Man I really loved, like the subway train sequence. I thought that was fantastic. The third one, I think, was the third one Sandman? Was that Sandman with Thomas Hayden Church? Parts of that were okay. Just parts, though. You know?
Yeah, in other words, take Venom out of the fucking story, put Lizard in like it should have been, and you had a movie.
Yeah.
And don't listen to the assholes at Sony, because they didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. Because if they knew what they were talking about, they wouldn't have to lease Spider-Man out to fucking Disney.
But isn't that what it is? Okay, that we've been going around back and forth on the issue, but is it possible that what the element is, the Raimi element, if you will, is the goofiness? There's goofiness in every single Raimi movie that he does, even the serious ones like Quick and the Dead. There's goofiness in that movie. And some of it is...
because you've got some crazy-ass characters, you've got some wacky fucking dialogue, and then you've got the hyper, sped up photography. Those are all Raimi tropes.
Yeah, and all the crazy visual effects and all the crazy camera work. That's the goofiness. So the goofiness. That's what's missing in Hudsucker, though, is that Raimi goofiness. It's all over Crimewave, but it's not in Hudsucker. Hudsucker is a Coen Brothers movie through and through.
Well,
what would you disagree about then?
Okay, so the ending where fucking dude stops time before he falls down to his death.
Oh, and then the angel Charles Durning comes down?
Yeah. That is pure Coen. That is 100%.
Well, I mean, you mean Raimi? Or what?
No, that's Coen. That's Coen.
But it's a little goofy. It's a little goofy to have Charles Durning dressed up as an angel, though.
Yeah, and that's where the Raimi connection can come in.
And Raimi is one of the guys trying to come up with a name for the hula hoop, remember? He's in silhouette, and he's talking to one of the Coens.
I got it.
He's like, fellas, I got it.
But, okay, you know what? I'm going to pull back on my stance a little bit.
Okay.
You are right. This movie is more Coen than Raimi.
Yeah.
Whatever Raimi contributed to this screenplay,
I think it was mainly the dialogue. He's all about the dialogue, you know?
Yeah, I would have to say any of that dialogue that Jennifer Jason Leigh did.
I'll stake my Pulitzer on it. Yeah, and then the smacking of Bruce Campbell. You know that Raimi was like, okay,
but then I love Paul Newman.
Listen, Joel, Ethan, if we have Bruce Campbell in this movie, we got to smack him. Okay? I don't care how you do it, you got to smack him. I have a deal going with Tappert. We have to beat the shit out of him in every movie that he's in. But you were saying something about Paul Newman. Yeah, Paul Newman was wonderful.
So I got one quick jab in at him. Hey, honey, how would you like to go back to my place for a little scotch and sofa?
Scotch and sofa. Oh, you man, you.
Fucking heel. But same thing. But yeah, Paul Newman in this movie. Oh my God. You talk about, dude. Paul Newman doing a Coen movie and he fucking nailed it. Like, he got it. Like, you took this serious fucking actor who could do any role You throw him in a Coen movie, and he nailed it 100%.
Well, yeah, he did it because he wanted to work with the
honestly don't think
Coens.
a better actor could have played that role.
He was a big fan of Miller's
what do you think?
Crossing. He was a big fan of Raising Arizona. He liked the vibe that the Coens were doing, so he wanted to be in the movie. What he didn't want to do, and I'll tell you this, I know it for true, because I read about it. He did not want to do publicity. They sent him out on a junket tour, and he was a miserable son of a bitch. He did not want to talk about anything. He just wanted to make the movie. He said, "I made the movie. I wanted to work with the Coens. Leave me alone."
Well, yeah, and at his
So he's a cranky
age,
pants.
why would?
But I can't. I can't think of anybody. Paul Newman. You know, the thing about
And
it
why
is,
would? And yeah, and at that time, dude, he's an old guy.
he's an old guy. Yeah, he retired. He pretty much retired. I mean, he made another really great movie back in the '90s. I think it was called Nobody's Fool. It was a fantastic movie. I loved it. He made another one called Twilight for Robert Benton. He made 2 movies for Robert Benton.
Nobody's fool.
But Nobody's Fool is like one of my favorites. I love that movie. Didn't much care for Twilight.
The
that
only
much.
reason Twilight's any good is because we get.
Reese Witherspoon's tits.
The only reason Twilight is worth watching. The only reason Twilight is worth watching is to see. Yep, Reese Witherspoon's tits.
Yes, and
That
they're
is
very
the only
lovely.
reason.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
That movie was not good, even though Paul Newman was in it. That was not good.
And also had Susan Sarandon for fuck's sake, but it wasn't. It was kind of boring.
But then he rebounded. Road to Perdition.
Road to Perdition. That's right.
Road to Perdition was another good movie he did.
I can't
and then he did
think
Cars.
of
He did
any
that
other
fucking
actor
Cars
who.
movie.
I mean, like maybe Tommy Lee Jones these days, not back then, but these days, could have played the character of Musburger as an old man. You know, one more person.
But then he is. But then you got the Texas. You got the Texas accent. Though.
I suppose, but he's really good at
We're
rattling
talking
off.
about a
He's
movie
really
set
good
in
at
Northern
rattling off
Towns with a Texas
dialogue.
accent. I don't know how well that would.
Plus, he's very intimidating and everything. But yeah, Paul Newman, he's one. I mean, Paul Newman begins and ends with Cool Hand Luke. Cool Hand Luke is one of my favorite movies. Love it.
I'm gonna go with The Hustler on that one. Or
Hustler's
a lot of
okay.
people think this is contrarian. Color of Money. I love him in that movie.
You know, I have yet to see that. I know it's Scorsese, but I have yet to see it.
I love The Color of
Even
Money.
though Scorsese is
I
one of
mean,
my
but
favorites, I
love The
never got
Hustler.
around to it. But I would love. I do.
But I agree with you on Cool Hand Luke.
Well, there was also
Cool Hand Luke is
he was
amazing.
when it came to my mother was more to that generation. My mother would have said HUD or Cat on a Hot Tin Roof with Elizabeth Taylor. He really liked. Oh, also there was another one that he did with his wife called The Long Hot Summer. So anyway, this is a really great movie. I really enjoy it. You said you didn't like it initially. Is that what it was?
Well, yeah, I mean, like most movies, they grow on you. You know, Hudsucker, I saw it when I was a dumb kid because it was on HBO, and I ignored it first, but then something stuck with me, and then, eventually discovered Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, that kind of stuff, and then I read up on Hudsucker. It's like, oh,
Right.
yeah. You know what, now that I like Sam Raimi, maybe I should fucking give the movie a shot.
Yeah.
And then I saw Fargo, too, and then I saw Fargo, Big Lebowski, so I did reappraise Hudsucker Proxy, and
This is a strange
now I
one,
like it
right?
more than
Though?
ever.
It's a strange one because it was their most expensive movie at that point, $25 million. Didn't make any money. It was produced by Joel Silver. You know?
And on top of that, they got Final Cut. They actually got Final fucking Cut.
I would say that was probably because Silver wanted to work with them desperately, and he said to Warner Brothers, he said, I'll get you this Coen Brothers movie, but they have to have Final Cut. And I guess they agreed. It's kind of amazing, too, wasn't it?
But then it was a co-production between Polygram and Warner Brothers. So,
Right.
because that's who the Coens were working with at the time. Because, like, right after they did Hudsucker, they did Fargo.
Right.
And that was all Polygram.
Right.
So...
Right. And working title. After this, I guess they regarded Hudsucker as a failure because then they went back to, maybe they didn't want to do anything as big budget anymore because Fargo was half the budget of Hudsucker Proxy.
And yet that was the one that blew up.
Yeah.
And it's such a great movie, too. I mean, it's not my...
It's a wonderful movie.
I guess I could say it's my favorite Coen movie, but it's probably my favorite Coen movie. That and Big Lebowski. Those are my 2 favorites.
Well, Fargo, I really do enjoy. It's a great movie. I love it. Not my favorite Coen Brother movie. Probably I'm going to say, ooh, it's been so long. I really enjoyed Miller's Crossing. I really enjoyed Raising Arizona and Blood Simple. Barton Fink was okay. Very little.
Barton Fink was just okay.
True Grit, though, I really love.
That's just, yeah. But, at the same time, it's a remake, but also at the same time...
It is, but
it's really close to the fucking book.
Yeah, it is. And it also isn't afraid to... It wasn't afraid. I mean, it was completely unafraid. It was not fearful, but it was 2010, so it was a different time. You know, 2010 was so long ago when you think about everything you were able to do. And then in 6 short years, I think 2016 is when movies started really kind of changing, you know, and it started to be less historically accurate, less controversial, more safe material, you know. True Grit was a very
ambitious movie.
It was ambitious and it was fearless. It was a fearless movie, you know. It was wonderful, though. Oh, Jeff Bridges was so wonderful in that film.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not a big on. I mean, I like some westerns, just not a lot. But I saw that movie blind going in, and I was blown away by it. And this is a guy who had never seen
the original.
I had never seen the original.
The original was my favorite John Wayne movie, and then I saw the remake, and the remake buries the original. As good as the original is, this movie was so much better than the original because there are certain things you can do in movies that you couldn't do back in the late 60s, you know?
Well, then, but the strength of the movie lied with the casting of Haley Steinfeld. That was like
yes, that's true. She is a wonderful actress who didn't really. She kind of retired from acting, and now she's like a singer.
No,
isn't she a singer?
Well, she's still acting. She popped up in a movie recently. She got nominated for a Golden Globe recently.
Oh, really?
Within the last couple of years, you know. I mean, the thing is, she's still around. She did Bumblebee, for Christ's sake. That movie was huge. She did really good with Bumblebee.
But it says here that she's like more known. She's like her.
Well, she wanted to be a chameleon, you know.
Her her songs are popular, apparently. I mean, I don't know anything about this. This is not my wheelhouse.
But again, point is that this is what we're talking about with the Coens. Like, they have an eye for perfect casting,
for talent and
for talent casting. I don't think any of their movies are ever miscast.
The best directors have a great eye for you. Terry Gilliam always said, you cast the right people, you hire the right people. Never try to get anybody to play outside of anything, and always cast the right person.
And then literally, True Grit would only... I mean, you want to say casting the character of Rooster Cogburn would be your make or break, and I honestly think the make or break is casting Hattie, because...
Well, Kim Darby played the role originally, and she's a fine actress. She did a great job in the original, and I was worried that they were going to just get any old kid to play that part, but they actually got a really talented girl, and I'm not exactly shocked because, again, the Coen brothers just know who to cast.
I mean, even when they fail, like you got a movie like Burn After Reading, it's very well cast.
It has a great cast.
It's a shit movie.
It's just a bunch of like I don't know what was going on in them. I really had no fucking clue what was going on.
No, I honestly don't. Dude, I saw the movie one time. It did not stick with me. I did not like it. I forgot about it. The one thing I remember is Brad Pitt dies in a weird, fucked up way. That's all I remember.
Did he get shot in a closet or something?
There's something like, dude, I don't even fucking remember.
Or was that Matt Damon who got shot in a closet? Somebody gets shot. I mean, like, it's like The Departed. It's like people die unexpectedly in a weird way. But The Departed was brilliant. This wasn't.
And that was the thing I was going back to with Crimewave, man. Like, dude, when I first saw Crimewave, like, it did not stick with me. I couldn't remember any of it. And then I found it last night, and I watched it again. I'm like, all right, maybe I was kind of wrong in writing this movie off, but at the same time, I can understand why I wrote it off.
Yeah. It's almost made to be forgotten in a way.
I mean, it exists as an example of what not to do in Hollywood, but it also is just a blueprint of what these three people could accomplish together in a proper way.
Yeah. Actually, Crimewave was an education, and it's not just an education for Sam Raimi. It's an education for anybody who wants to study film. Study bad movies. That's where you learn. You learn by watching bad movies. You don't learn anything watching a good movie. I mean, because you know what to avoid, how to avoid the pitfalls. In Crimewave's case, I think the producers interfered. I think Embassy Pictures.
It was all
Embassy
producers,
interferes.
Man. The Coens and I think Raimi both wanted to work with Norman Lear because they knew that everything he touched turned to gold. So, hey, let's make a movie over at Norman Lear's studio because he's fucking Norman Lear.
Right.
Because you were talking about a company, Embassy Entertainment, that was good when it came to doing television. But when it came to movie distribution, they were crap. You originally had Avco Embassy, because that's how it started, right? Avco Embassy Pictures. And then those movies were good. Like you had, The Howling, you had Escape from New York. Those were like the really low budget movies. And then when it became like the whole different thing, like when it became like the later on in the 80s, they just lost their footing totally.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't get proper distribution. And then at the end of the day, it was all sold to Columbia back in 87.
Yeah, and they were already purchased. They were purchased by Coca-Cola in 85.
Yeah, Coca-Cola had bought Columbia, and then Columbia themselves merged with Embassy. Because like one thing you'll probably, if you never knew this, I hope you know it now. You know, the first season of Married with Children was produced by Embassy Entertainment.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
Yeah, it was. The very first season was produced by Embassy Entertainment. And then right after that, the merger happened. Second season on up is all Columbia.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
Well, it is time to end this
So
episode.
So point is, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, you know, sometimes you shouldn't meet your heroes. Okay.
Well, I'm not.
Sometimes.
I'm going to buy the Blu-ray because the Blu-ray looks fantastic. It's got 4 different cuts of the movie, plus a whole bunch of additional supplemental stuff and a lot of Bruce talking about how it was all fucked up and everything. I want to see. I learn more. Like I said, I learn more watching bad movies. So I watch a lot of bad movies. I learned a lot watching Tenet. I know that.
Crimewave is currently out of print, but the good news is it's not priced astronomically high.
No, I can find it. I can find copies of it on Amazon for like $25 tops, and also probably even cheaper
eBay
on
is
eBay.
like $25. Like, luckily, it's not. It's one of those movies where people really don't like it to the point where it's like, hey, we'll buy it as an oddity, but like we're not going to rush out to buy this fucking movie right away. But I mean, you know, Hudsucker Proxy, I kind of regret not buying that on Blu-ray when I had the chance. During the Warner Archive sale, I should have bought it. I don't know why I didn't.
I wish I had. I don't know why I didn't. I'm stupid. I'm really fucking stupid.
I'm dumb too. I honestly don't know.
I would love to have that on Blu-ray. I had to go and find it.
It was $10. I should have fucking bought it.
I have it on Laserdisc. So
do I.
Yeah.
I fucking have it on Laserdisc, you know? And it's just one of those movies. It's like, and then on top of that, it's like it's free on Tubi right now. And then, like, streaming, it's really easy to do anyway.
It's very easy to find. It's a very easy to find movie.
Now, then you take a movie like Crimewave. God damn, you have to buy the fucking Blu-ray. Otherwise, you're probably never going to see it again.
And I have yet to see, like, the international cut, which adds, like, about 5 to 7 minutes to it. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
I know. What I do know is I read up on that, too. I want to get the Japanese Laserdisc of the XYZ Murders. That's the second Laserdisc release.
Right.
But that one, even though it's the longest cut, they took out the line, "Step away from the fucking window!" They took that line out.
Yeah,
now,
I forgot to mention. I forgot to mention. The Crimewave was one of the earlier movies, but it was one of the earlier movies to get a PG-13 rating, and it was for that "Step away from the fucking window." You could say fucking, for some reason, fucking as in get the fuck out of here, instead of I'm gonna fuck that chick later. You can't say that. That's an R rating. But if you say "step away from the fucking window," that's a PG-13. But before that, in the early 80s, you could say fuck several times in PG movies. I guess they decided to change it around.
Well, the prime example is 16 Candles. I always tell you,
Yes,
you get...
strangely enough, Edward R. Pressman, who was a big producer, for some reason cast in this movie as Ernest, the guy, the husband of Louise Lasser, who accidentally gets killed by the exterminators. We didn't even talk about the movie. All we did was talk about all the bullshit around it. But yeah, it's basically, like I said, it was Blood Simple, but done by the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
Man hires
when you talk
two
about
thugs
Crimewave, you're
to kill his
literally
business
talking about the
partner, and they
bullshit.
wind up killing somebody else instead. So it's a mistake. It's a mistake movie. All right.
It is.
So next time, what are we doing? Oh God, I don't know.
Oh, don't we got to finish it off? Do Army? You said you wanted to do Army of Darkness.
Well, yeah, that's Bruce, but let me check the old list here and see if... Oh, I think we're going to do something involving Christoph Waltz, because my wife is up my ass to finally fucking crack open this Zero Theorem. So,
oh yeah, we were gonna do Alita, Battle Angel, and Zero Theorem.
Right. Okay. So we'll have a tribute to Christoph Waltz. I have yet to see Zero Theorem, but Alita, Battle Angel was wonderful. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy it too, John. And I
hope so too.
We'll also watch Zero Theorem, which is a Terry Gilliam movie that nobody knows about. All right. So until then,
luckily I knew about it, but until then, like, share, and subscribe.
Like, share, and subscribe.
And everybody, take it easy.
Come on over there, sweet cheeks, and pray one on me. All right.